eagerly wanting to ask you
And you have to read her book.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Kate Snow.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with some breaking news. Attorney General Merrick Garland about to make his first public comments since the FBI searched former President Donald Trump's residence in Florida earlier this week. This will be the first time anyone from the Department of Justice has commented since the Mar-a-Lago search. About a dozen boxes worth of materials were seized from a safe and a storage area within Mr. Trump's residence. This statement from the Attorney General comes, of course, amid growing calls from Mr. Trump's supporters to explain what was behind that search. NBC's Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian has been following this story all along. Ken, what do we expect here?
Kate, I'm not expecting to learn a lot of new facts about the search. I'm prepared to be proven wrong. I think I'm expecting a primer on the process and why the Justice Department conducts searches pursuant to court orders, what are the circumstances, and possibly also some pushback on some of the criticism that the department has been taking from, as you mentioned, from Trump supporters who say that this is unfair, that it's politically motivated. There have even been remarks by some Trump lawyers that the FBI may have planted evidence. I expect Merrick Garland to push back on that. But Merrick Garland is a cautious, careful institutionalist who believes in the rules and believes in protocol. And protocol in this case says that the Justice Department does not talk about pending criminal investigations, no matter how badly people want them to do that. And so I don't expect him to talk about in detail about what, for example, what led the FBI to pursue this court-ordered search.
All right.
Kate.
All right, Ken, here's the Attorney General now.
Good afternoon. Since I became Attorney General, I have made clear that the Department of Justice will speak through its court filings and its work. Just now, the Justice Department has filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal a search warrant and property receipt relating to a court-approved search that the FBI conducted earlier this week. That search was of premises located in Florida belonging to the former president. The department did not make any public statements on the day of the search. The former president publicly confirmed the search that evening, as is his right. Copies of both the warrant and the FBI property receipt were provided on the day of the search to the former president's counsel, who was on site during the search. The search warrant was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause. The property receipt is a document that federal law requires law enforcement agents to leave with the property owner. The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter. Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing. All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, to due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence. Much of our work is by necessity conducted out of the public eye. We do that to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans and to protect the integrity of our investigations. Federal law, long-standing department rules, and our ethical obligations prevent me from providing further details as to the basis of the search at this time. There are, however, certain points I want you to know. First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. Third, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants. Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights. They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves. I am honored to work alongside them. This is all I can say right now. More information will be made available in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney General, the former president said this
FBI agents? Thank you all for your questions, but as I said, this is all I can say at this time.
All right, we've been listening to the Attorney General of the United States. Brief comments there. Let me bring back our Justice and Intelligence correspondent, Ken Delanian, who's been following all of this. In the beginning of his statement there, Ken, he said, we have filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal the search warrant, meaning we'll be able to see what they were after on Monday.
Absolutely right, Kate. In fact, we have this motion now. It doesn't reveal the details. It's asking the judge to unseal this affidavit. And just so people understand, this affidavit, which normally would be sworn out by an FBI agent, this is how the FBI communicates to the judge the probable cause that they believe exists to show that a crime had been committed and that there was evidence of that crime present at former President Donald Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago. So this is the whole shebang. If there was a confidential human source, whatever led up to this search would be generally in an affidavit like this. They may redact names, and what's clear here is that this is a motion by the Justice Department asking the judge to unseal. So an interesting question will be, what is the Donald Trump position now? Will they oppose this effort to unseal the warrant, or will they support it, Kate?
And what will the judge do, right? Because ultimately it's the judge's call.
Right, but generally the interest in sealing is a law enforcement interest. It's the Justice Department that demands the seal to protect the confidentiality of sources, to protect the nature of the investigation. So often when the prosecutors say unseal, it gets unsealed.
And Ken, we also heard the Attorney General say, I personally approve the decision to seek a search warrant. That was obviously a very intentional thing to say out loud.
It was indeed, and it was what we all expected had happened, but it was interesting to hear it confirmed. And then we also, of course, heard him push back in a general way against the attacks that he's perceiving happening leveled against FBI agents and prosecutors who are being accused without evidence, really, of acting in a political way or an unfair way, Kate.
Let me go to NBC's Vaughn Hilliard. He's in Palm Beach, Florida, right outside Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. He joins us now. Vaughn, I imagine it's too quickly to get any reaction from folks inside the Trump camp, but clearly this was orchestrated by the Attorney General to address some of the concerns that you've been hearing from those close to former president.
Right, Kate, for about 48 hours, this was allowed to fester, and in large part, it was Trump and allies of his within the Republican Party who filled the void there, you know, not only calling into question what the Department of Justice was looking for, calling it a political witch hunt, a political operation to undermine him as he looks toward his own potential 2024 presidential run here. But in that meanwhile, this was Donald Trump ultimately also at the same time saying that they were not going to turn over and release publicly the search warrant that was handed over to them, nor were they going to turn over that property receipt, which they are in custody of presently. And that's where you hear Merrick Garland lay out that they have filed that motion to unseal both the search warrant and that property receipt, which the Trump team already has in their possession, and they have declined to turn over. And I think it's interesting because I was talking with a source familiar on Trump's side of this, and they had said that the burden was on the Department of Justice to be transparent about why they issued this search warrant and wanted to execute it. But now what you're hearing from the Department of Justice is saying essentially that the onus now turns back to the Trump team. I think the one other note on this here is when you're looking at the political ramifications of this, Kate, here, there's a lot of question marks as to why these documents were ultimately secured by the Department of Justice as part of this warrant. Because to our understanding, we have been told that a subpoena was issued to Donald Trump this spring. And then on June 3rd, there was a meeting in which Donald Trump and his lawyers turned over several boxes of material to the Department of Justice. Ultimately, it's clear that the Department of Justice, the FBI, did not get what exactly they were looking for, and that ultimately led to the search warrant executed earlier this week.
Yeah, so this doesn't just begin in the last couple of days. This is something that has some history back to the spring. Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. Let me go to Chief White House Correspondent Kristen Welker, who's with me now. Kristen, first off, I saw reporting that a senior White House official said the White House and President Biden did not have any knowledge that this was happening today, that Merrick Garland would be addressing the press. Let's start there.
Well, that's absolutely right, Kate. And President Biden has been trying to keep his distance. In fact, when that search occurred on Monday, when we all learned about it, the White House was quick to say that he hadn't been given a heads up about that either. He, of course, campaigned on a promise to keep his distance from the Justice Department. Now, in the early days of his presidency, he did have what many considered a misstep when he seemed to weigh in on what he thought should happen to those who did not comply with subpoenas. He walked those comments back, though, made it very clear he sees the Justice Department as independent from the White House, trying to draw a sharp contrast, of course, with his predecessor. So we are seeing that yet again play out today, when the White House making it very clear that he didn't have any type of a heads up on what the Attorney General was going to say, or that he was going to speak at all. The president right now is vacationing in South Carolina, Kate.
Well, Kristen, this is going to have political ramifications, right? A Trump spokesperson earlier today called the search unprecedented, absolutely unnecessary raid, in their words, said the Department of Justice has been, quote, weaponized. How is the White House dealing with that political climate that we're in right now?
Well, that's a key question, because remember, the president was poised to take somewhat of a victory lap. He's had a number of legislative victories. He's poised to likely have another one tomorrow when the House passes a key piece of legislation. And so he was going to put his focus on the midterms. And the question becomes, is the White House concerned that that messaging is going to be soaked up by all of this focus now on this search and on his predecessor, former President Trump? The administration insisting that it's not going to detract away from their core messaging. But just taking a step back, Kate, to something that you said at the top, that the Attorney General was talking today in the wake of pressure from Trump supporters to come out and explain his actions. He was also getting pressured from those inside the Justice Department. I've been talking to current and former Justice Department officials who say they wanted to hear an explanation from the Attorney General about why this dramatic step was necessary. And so now we have it. It's also worth noting that FBI Director Christopher Wray was asked yesterday about former President Trump's baseless claim that FBI agents may have planted evidence, and he said he's not going to comment on anything that has to do with this investigation. And you really heard this robust defense from the Attorney General, essentially answering all of the criticism that may be lobbed against the FBI, against the Department of Justice, making it very clear that this was an action that he approved, that he believed was necessary.
And Kristen, indeed, he also said that the FBI agents do this work at personal sacrifice and risk. He said, I won't stand by silently when their integrity is being unfairly attacked. Kristen Welker at the White House for us. Kristen, thank you. That concludes our coverage for this hour. We're going to have much more tonight on NBC Nightly News. For all of us here at NBC News, I'm Kate Snow. Thank you for watching.
If he's doing something similar, or if he's been violent, or she feels trapped, would that